Sipping champagne on the Mekong Delta.
Are the others coming?
No, they've all said it's been far too long.
Well, then they need to be quiet, don't they?
We've been
And be a
to
bit more concise with their
Malaysia and
questions.
Thailand, and we've been to Langkawi, but haven't been to Vietnam. Yeah, it'd be interesting.
Right, we're going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. We're going to get started. Just before we do, I just wanted to remind the committee. I had a couple of questions from committee members about. I know we don't use the board here because of our seating arrangements, but I just want to remind the members to, if they are reading a speech, and I'm happy to allow that to happen, that we can keep our speaking times to 5 minutes and not go over that, and that is in standing orders. And if we start to get a little bit lengthy in that, I'd ask that democracy remind us of that. So that would cover the questions from a couple of members I had in the break. Right, so we're on to item 7, page 24. And this is the determination report for the Hamilton City Public Places bylaw. And we've got Calvin in the hot seat. Hi, Calvin.
Good afternoon.
Calvin, you can take the report as read. Is there anything you wish to highlight in the report?
Very little. Just recap bylaws. Is to regulate the trading in public places and regulate the signage and provide the balance between addressing the demand for the commercial activity and obviously the outdoor dining and the provision of clear footpath for pedestrians for people with disabilities. The bylaw is determined to be the most appropriate way to manage those commercial activities in public places to ensure pedestrian access and safety is not compromised. The recommendations
On page 25.
Yep. Recommendations is that Council determine the bylaw continues to be the most appropriate mechanism to manage the commercial activities whilst ensuring pedestrian access.
So you're recommending option 3 as in the
Option
report.
3 of the 3 options, with a view to bringing a paper back to the S&P on 3rd of November.
Great, thank you. Can I just ask, just on page 24, on point 4, we're talking about if the bylaw is not reviewed within a 5-year, and this may be to Blair, within the 5-year period, the bylaw will automatically be revoked 2 years after. So this was 2009. 5 years takes us to 14, and then 2 years is not till 17.
No, it's 2016, February 16. So the bylaw was revoked on the 25th of February 2016.
7 years, sorry. Great, thank you.
Chair, I'm happy to move the recommendation.
Thank you, Your Worship. Do I have a seconded by Councillor Pascoe? Are there any questions to staff? Councillor Mallett.
Thanks, Kellen. I've read the whole report, and it's pretty clear, and a lot of it's grey area about when's it nuisance, and we're trying to create a vibe in the central city, but also we've got to expect that people have got to use the footpaths to walk on, and that's what we're carrying on. And it's kind of tangentially touched on, but when you've got trade, and I don't have a position on this, but I'd just like some maybe some input from you. When you've got people who've set up I think they call pop-up shops or something like that, or a pizza cart in down River Road, or a coffee cart somewhere else, or a coffee cart in Hood Street. Where do we take into this the fact that that coffee cart's possibly taking business away from a rate-paying coffee business?
Under the current bylaw, you can only operate a mobile shop, which is what you're referring to, outside of what was in the last bylaw called the city heart, which precludes being in the central city.
Okay, sorry, that maybe just generally. So I live in Victoria, River Road, Queenwood, down what's it called? Something Landing, Swarbrick Landing. There's frequently pizza places, and I've helped these people to get there. So I'm, like I say, I don't have a position on it, but so we've got a guy, someone sells pizzas there, and someone sells fresh fish, and probably, there'll be a coffee cart there sometimes, I don't know, but those guys are, I assume, not paying any rates. The guys up at Queenwood, just 500 metres up are paying rates, they've got to pay rents. Does that factor, and I don't even know if it does, if it needs to, but I can see some inequity there, but I don't know if it is an inequity.
I'm not sure it's factored in under the current process in which we deal with it, no.
Yeah, I guess it was a hopeless question. So. But it's just an issue that I just don't know. Was this going to try and address that, or do we ask? I suppose all our bylaws go out to consultation, so we'll get commentary from existing rate-paying businesses saying, look, you set up this guy, and he only has to have, he's...
Yep. Yeah, and I think if, depending on what feedback we get from the submissions, I mean, we don't have to allow that in the city. If that's something that you wanted to take out, then you can take that out. I mean, the next step that comes back is the draft document, the draft bylaw. So that would be a good time to have that debate. But certainly, if that's your view now, Councillor Mallett, I mean, staff.
Well, I don't have a view. It's just an issue I would like to see canvassed, because I can see, I got to take kids to sport, and everywhere you go now, there's a coffee cart there, which presumably is taking a bit of business from the guy who's paying rates just down the road,
Or alternatively, is offering up some opportunities that perhaps was an area that wasn't previously.
Yeah, and I'm all for entrepreneurship, and I'm all for everything. I don't know quite which side I'm on.
I suggest that
I'm not on a side. I just wanted to say something.
That's unusual, Councillor Mallett.
I've got a quota and I wasn't using it.
But even though I disagree with where you don't think you're at or where you do think you're at, it's a good point, because it is one that has been raised over the years since I've been on here with Garden Place, with vendors going into Garden Place, and there are two sides to it. Do we, it's the market will do what the market will do, or we have an environment like Garden Place. Do we want 100 trucks selling pizzas in there when there's 3 pizza places? So yeah, it's a difficult one, but it will come out in the submission process, I think. Any other further questions? No? No, so staff will be bringing back a proposal in November?
3rd of November.
On the draft bylaw.
Correct.
Can I just ask, so that issue will be canvassed in this process?
We will come back with a draft bylaw,
then that'll go out?
That will go out for
Okay.
public submission.
Okay.
Yeah. All right, so that's been moved by Her Worship, seconded by Councillor Pascoe. Oh, question? Councillor?
No, I was going to second it.
Oh, it's been seconded
Madam
by
Chair.
Councillor
I was so
Pascoe.
enthusiastic.
That's great, thank you. It's been seconded. So there's no further questions. Look, any debate on that? I don't think there's going to be a debate, is there? No. So I'll put that. All those in favour?
Aye.
Are there any against? There are none against. That's been carried. Thanks,
Thank you.
Calvin. Right, item 8. Excuse me. Page 29. This is the trade waste and combined wastewater bylaw. Same again. Determination report. Welcome. Excuse me.
I'll move, Madam Chair.
Ooh, we've moved.
I'll
aren't we?
second.
Oh, moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? You can take the report as read.
No.
Are there any questions for staff on this one?
I just had
Councillor
one very minor question on page 33, item K at the top of the page. I just wondered who MWH was.
They are actually a engineering consultancy firm.
And have they got a proper name, or is that their name?
Montgomery, Watson and Hauser.
Okay. So they're a specialist firm in that particular
Yes, they are.
area. Okay. That's what I wasn't familiar with.
I just have a clarification. If the mover and seconder agree, in C on page 30, that should be the 23rd of February 2016. There's no 5th of February Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. And that's repeated in the report somewhere, that date as well. So it's the 23rd of February.
Paragraph 54.
It's in paragraph 54, so just those corrections there. And this is the same process. At that meeting, you will bring back a draft bylaw for elected members.
That's correct.
Great, thank you. Are there any further questions?
Oh,
Councillor Mallett?
sorry. Yes, I do. Page 34, point 57. Point 59, technical input for the development of the bylaw is sourced internally from city water staff and through the use of consultants where appropriate. Legal review may be sought. These works are funded through city water's operational budgets. So again, this is the point I had last CMP, that we're not being told what these things cost. And I appreciate that there was budget allowed for it. There's a big amorphous budget, which you guys, the general managers manage. But I'd like to know, if we decided not to do this, what would it save us? Could it save us some money? Or if we decided to do it twice, because it needs to be done really well, what would it cost us? And we just get told, yep, no, we got it covered, thanks, type thing. So, and I know that's a hard, it's how many man hours, is how many consultants we've got, how much printing we do, all that sort of stuff, but some sort of idea, so that, because we are trying to run this, we're the government's body, we're trying to watch where resources are being spent, and it's very hard to manage that when you're not being told.
So, Councillor Miller, are you asking about the financial aspects of developing the bylaw, or the activity itself, the bylaw?
Because that's what that refers to, I think.
Yeah.
The process of developing the bylaw, not the the cost of implementing it.
Activity,
which might require monitors on drains and all sorts of stuff,
It's a little bit of an open question, because it depends on the nature of the feedback and the scale of the consultation, but we're very happy to include indicative costs to date and going forward at the time we come back.
I think that's important, because Councillor Mallett raised this last time, and I did talk to the General Manager about it, and I think even if it is an indicative cost, I mean, we've done so many bylaws and things now, we kind of know. Chris?
Can I just say, councillors, we have received that message, and we're working through that as a group to get better in that aspect. So I think we can, identify the core costs that are within our operational budget. So I'm sorry I didn't do it for this report, but that message has got through, and we are going to get better at that as a group.
And Councillor Mallett's also on the back of the action list that the SLT is still working on.
I saw that. I mean, I guess these things are optional for us. By the mere fact that you're asking us, would you let us go through a bylaw process? It's not something we have to do. It's a choice we've made. It's a choice to undertake a process which will cost resources, and we're just not nowhere near knowing what the resources are and what the cost is there.
Very, very happy to
Thank you.
provide that information.
Great, thank you. Any further questions?
Could I just ask another question, and that is just whether the 10-year review is appropriate, whether it should be done more regularly than 10 years, and I'm not looking to create extra work here. But
what is that going to cost?
But under what was it, the area of, I mean, obviously there are new things that are happening all the time in our waterways, and I noticed the comment about the Ministry of Health and out-of-date pharmaceutical, where did I see that? On controlling what enters on page 36 under B. Currently, pharmacies are not included in the trade waste bylaw. However, the Ministry of Health is advising the discharge of large quantities of out-of-date medicines. So is 10 years too long a period, given that these things could have been happening for quite some time, and they haven't been, well, they may have been identified, but they couldn't be addressed because the policy or the bylaw was in place for that length of time? And I'm thinking not just of this one, but there could well be other things that might happen in the next 10 years that we kind of have to wait 10 years before we can respond to.
We can actually take partner review at any time. So if there is something significant, that can actually spark a review of a bylaw.
Okay.
So obviously...
So do we do that from time to time? We actually do that when, say, if this out-of-date medicines were being flushed down our waterways, and it was identified as a problem, we would respond to that without waiting for the bylaw to be reviewed.
That's correct. If we felt that it was significant for our network and protection of our community, most definitely.
And do we do that? Have we done that?
I am not aware of any instances where we have done that.
Okay. We just seen Aaron Fleming's indicating, yes, we absolutely have review bylaws ahead of the time frame.
Because of new factors that...
Yes, and Aaron's got an example there.
So, through the Chair, we've previously agreed that the
Thank you.
Councillor Mallett?
Just on that specific one, have you had incidences where pharmacies are tipping their old pills down? Is that what that talks about? Is that what, am I missing what that means?
Yeah, it is.
Yes, it is, yeah.
And so pharmacies do that, don't they? They chuck them down the drain.
There's potential for them to do that, yes.
They get really big eels or something.
No, obviously we wouldn't know of the effects.
Steroids, eels on steroids, healthy.
We wouldn't know of those effects until
Yeah.
they hit the wastewater treatment plant. Obviously, we've got a biological treatment plant, so anything that's not nice for those bugs could potentially affect the performance of our plant. So that's what we're really concerned about.
So you could imagine antibiotics and that would have a bit of a problem, wouldn't they, in terms of what we might, how we might deal with treatment of them and what the antibiotics might want to do themselves to
Give you a really healthy fish, wouldn't it? really healthy fish.
You've got to consider the volume as well. So if we dump your pill packet of aspirin down the toilet, it's not actually going to have that effect. It's going to be diluted significantly before it hits the plant.
Can I just ask, Emily, on page 35, under the first issue, the accelerated, preferred approach under the accelerated, you're talking about the deterioration of the wastewater network. You're saying that you're going to provide a list of what can and cannot be discharged to the wastewater system in the bylaw. I would assume that would be a generic list, because being an exhaustive list would be almost impossible, wouldn't it? So how are you going to approach that?
There's already a list in the current trade waste bylaw, so all we'll be doing is reviewing that list with our key stakeholders and ensuring that it's still robust.
Okay, all right. Great, thank you. Okay, there are no further questions. That's being moved by Councillor Wilson, seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Do the mover and seconder wish to speak? No.
No.
And anyone else? No. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Are there any against? No, that's carried. Thank you. Right, item number 9, page 45. We've got the GM Sean Murray here, and this is the Central City Transformation Plan. And Chris Simpson. Welcome, Chris. Right, so over to you. Oh, just checking, elected members, you would have received the report that was the late item. I think that was emailed out on Thursday last week at around 2 p.m. So just make sure everyone has that. Yep, great. Thanks, Sean.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to invite any questions that people may have on this agenda item and the draft Central City Transformation Plan itself that you've received. Just as a reminder, the work that we've done on this draft Central City Transformation Plan was directed as a part of the Business and Investment Subcommittee work plan. It was also identified as an action item under the 2014-15 annual plan. The draft is intended to deliver a sort of conceptual vision for the future shape and development of the Central City, and it outlines a range of potential action plans that could take place and could be delivered over a long period of time. This also includes a lot of areas where council in its ongoing conduct of its day-to-day business in the Central City would be integrated into aspects of the plan. However, the draft plan is very clear that it needs to have strong involvement and engagement with business and private sector interests. It's not just a plan for council action. The draft plan and the ultimate plan has no statutory powers. It does not override or supersede the proposed district plan. It is a vision. The draft basically has been prepared as the result of some significant desk research and a number of formal and informal consultation points with a wide range of external stakeholders in the city with a focus on the CBD, including property developers, businesses, retailers, and so forth. Our proposal to you today through this agenda item is that we now put the draft document as it stands out for formal consultation to the public at large, inviting further input and feedback to allow us to then present it to you with whatever changes come out of the feedback as a final document. The timetable for the public engagement process is outlined in section 21 and 22 of the paper. Thank you.
Right, thank you, Sean. Questions, Councillor Mallett.
Thanks, Angela. Thanks, Sean and Chris. Just a big picture question. What is it that drives us to protect, subsidise, prop up the CBD over other parts of the city? I mean, they're all ratepayers, they're all Hamiltonians, they're all voters, they're all mums and dads and businesses. And I mean, other than cliches about pumping hearts of cities and carry on, what really matters?
Yeah, well, I think it's fair to say that what drives us, or is my understanding of the drivers, is that businesses within the central city, businesses and community right across the city actually are asking for a solution to the challenges that we currently face in the central city area. So it is a response, in my view, to public opinion and public concern over the state of the central city and where it is actually headed. And, you know, you're well aware more than anyone, all of you are, of the sort of public commentary that has been going on for a number of years now about where is the central city headed. So I think it's in response to public demand and desire for some leadership to be forthcoming on the matter.
I guess there's a lot of, you know, there's Rotorua, there's the base, there's a whole lot of beautiful developments that are, I don't know if they're contesting with the CBD, but if you live out that way, I mean, I just went out with some mates the other day, and I can totally understand why you go to the Rotorua shopping centre, 3 lovely pubs, couple of gyms, couple of supermarkets, right in the middle of no hobos. And if you want to go do some big retailing, you go to the base. There's nothing that, if I lived out there, I don't live out there, I live a bit close to town, if there's nothing to bring me into to the CBD, I wouldn't come in and I wouldn't miss it. Are we trying really hard to lead a horse to the water and the horse won't drink it?
Well, I think
and using a lot of people's money. And I'm sorry, I'm going on a bit, but as I always do. But we've tried this umpteen times. You know, the cliche, this horse has been flogged to bits. And for some reason, and I haven't got a dog in this. I've worked in the CBD almost all my life, so I love the place. But it's just something's not working, and I don't know. It really concerns me that we're throwing another wad of other people's money at this.
And to answer in a non-cliche way, because I'm not very good at cliches.
You can use mine if you want.
Yeah, coming back to your sunk cost, what is your central city? And if you look at page 10 of the plan, you've got the startings of, if you're going to invest into anything into a city, you've got the startings of your professional scientific, your the financial, your public administration, your health. You've got a starting of a central city that's focusing on the tertiary and the quaternary part of your economy.
Tertiary and what?
In quaternary, which is the scientific, the thinking aspects of the community. So the tertiary is your the likes of the accountants and lawyers and all that.
Yep.
Your quaternary is the scientific side. Okay. And you're starting to see the development of that within your central city, which is a good sign for a city like this. So extracting out retail and other aspects of your city, what you're getting is that investment into your sunk cost of a central city that requires that investment from a public amenity and public support through what you're paying rates.
And that's quite a good answer, except are we paying $10 to get it to work here when we could pay $2 to get it to work out there because people are going there voluntarily? I mean, because I'm very aware that a lot of the stuff in here is old, earthquake prone, take it for what you will, very limited parking. There's lots of reasons why it could be a lot more expensive to do it in here than it would be to allow the market, dare I say it, determine where's the best place to go.
And the market's determining that already, which was quite surprising when we looked at the research, because I was of the opinion that it's pretty tough out there. But the market's actually determining that we're getting growth in your tertiary and your quaternary services in the employment sector, which is a very early indication that that part of the business wants to be in the service sector part of town. And what they get from that is the interactions and the agglomeration and the unintended consequences of working in with others. And that's what's happening.
But do you think that's happening like I said, are we paying an awful lot to get them to stay here, or to come in here, whereas the ratepayer would get a lot more back, because we all want more business, we all want more employers, we all want more products we can buy without having to go to Auckland. We all want jobs and great schools for our kids, so we all want the same things.
Yeah,
but could we get it cheaper out there?
And I can't answer that other than the market's already indicating what they want to do in here. So they're already pricing that decision. That's not one for us to price. If it was an approach where we were artificially making those changes, then you could have that conversation, but we're not. Pretty much you're at a base level where the economy and the market right here, right now, is at the lowest in the sense of what it's been since 2001, but it's actually moving up in the right sectors.
Okay, I guess you said, are we doing it artificially? But surely our district plan, which makes it almost impossible not to have those, not to do those tertiary and is it quad as in 4? Is it?
Yeah,
quadrantary things.
And your proposed
it's very hard not to do it in here or that little spot or that little spot.
And it's interesting. Your proposed district plan hasn't been around long enough to actually create what's already happening naturally. It's actually the market pricing of what's happening in the central city is already dictating what's happening here, and that was quite a surprise to us. I wasn't expecting that. So.
If I could also just go back to your earlier question, Councillor Mallett, about we've done it before. You're absolutely right. My understanding from what I'm learning here is that it has been done before, but my understanding is also that it's been very singular focused. It's been, let's do one thing and that will fix everything. And that has not worked. That's without a doubt. The draft plan that we have before you now, it's really accepting that and acknowledging that that has failed in the past and that there is no one silver bullet that will address issues or concerns we might have about how the central city is developing. It is basically a basket of things that have to be done. Some are going to require policy settings, some are going to require perhaps a change of approach to some of our day-to-day action, some is going to require some money and so forth. Now, whether that's council money or private sector money, I don't know. What we have learned through the consultation process is that the private sector money is most likely there, and Sandy Turner referred to that earlier this morning in her presentation, but the private sector that we're talking to is giving us a sense that they want to know where we're going. Where do we want the city to go? What do we want to be, and so forth, so that they have something that they can pitch their own commercial decisions against, as opposed to ongoing uncertainty and so forth.
Any other questions?
I'll move the recommendation, Chair.
You wish. Seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Right, there being no further questions, we'll move into a debate. Your Worship, as the mover.
Look, I spoke about this at the Business and Investment Subcommittee. This is a recommendation from that. That subcommittee was charged under its terms of reference to deliver this, and they've spent an ordinary amount of time doing this, engaging a number of stakeholders over a vast array of sectors. And I have to say that the input, buy-in and enthusiasm for getting a plan like this done has been really well received. I think the General Manager made a very good point. The role of a council is to demonstrate leadership in a direction of travel so that the private sector in this case knows where we're going and where their role might be in it. And to date we haven't had that. This provides that certainty and enables them to then know what their place is and where their investments should be put. I think that's quite a critical point. The other point I'd like to make, councillors, is never in the past, certainly in my knowledge, has there been a comprehensive approach to how you might deal with the central city. There's been elements of it, but as you will see in the plan, it requires a multiple approach. It's not just one thing. And I'm confident that that has not been done in the past. And I'm also confident that there are many cities who haven't done that either. And that for the first time, and I think this is showing leadership actually across New Zealand, it's all been brought together as, you know, all these bits need to be looked at and worked together, and one thing on its own won't be sufficient. So I think the approach has been really, really good. I do also, Chair, want to just acknowledge the work that staff have done. because a lot of work has gone into this, and the staff have gathered a lot of information, not just Chris and Sean's team, but across the organisation have had a lot of input into this and provided a lot of information. And I think a lot goes on behind the scenes, and we often just see the sort of the end product. So I want to thank them for that. This is about taking it out for public engagement. I do note that the media is here, and they have run several quite front page stories. And the feedback looking at social media and on the websites for the newspaper demonstrate that the public really are engaged with this, that they do have an opinion on this, and that they are really looking forward to having a view and expressing that through this process. So I think the engagement process looks really good. I think it's going to be a useful process, and then we'll come back through the BNI subcommittee. The other final thing I want to say, Chair, is I do want to thank the members of the BNI subcommittee. They've worked really hard on this as well. They've attended a lot of sessions with a lot of stakeholders and given some really valuable input. Not of it always agreed. There's been some good debates had around the table on that, and I think that's been really helpful, because that says to me there's been a lot of rigour and a lot of testing gone into this, and in fact some challenges during the stakeholder meetings as well, and I think that's been good. So I feel confident the end product is really, really good. And councillors, I think we should get this out in the public domain for some engagement and see what our community have to say. Thank you.
Thank you, Your Worship. Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, thank you. Thank you.
Crikey.
Thank you, Madam Chair.
Don't want that, John.
I'm not going to live that one down.
That's a big one. You can call me Your Honour. I'll have that one.
As a member of the BNI committee, I've been involved in this journey, and I would have to say, and I think it's been reinforced today by Sandy first and again by Sean, that council is not to be the major funder or financier of this plan. This is a plan, and I think in the conversations that we've had with stakeholders throughout the journey, we have hopefully convinced them that there needs to be some buy-in, and not just buy-in agreement, but buy-in financially from them. So I was very heartened in this report called Hamilton Reviving the CBD, which has been put out by the Property Council and which came out contemporaneously with our report last week, where they label Hamilton City Council as a bold and innovative enabler. And so I see, as we continue this journey, that council will continue to be the enabler and not necessarily the funder. And I think that is something that will be quite different to what we've done in the past, where we've come up with ideas that we might tweak. We might take one area, tweak the CBD, and this will answer the problem that's there. I think that there's a whole raft of ways, and the river plan fits in, as I see it, to being part of this development over a period of time. But I see council's involvement in this as being an enabler rather than the financier. So I'm looking forward to continuing that journey and see where it's going to fall in the next few years. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Further speakers? Councillor King?
I wonder if people commenting in Saturday's newspaper article were asked not so much what do you think of the city's grand CBD plan, but indeed what are you prepared to pay for it. These people seem to think the goodies being supplied by councils don't have a cost. So the first question should have been, are you a ratepayer or do you live in Hamilton? The second question would have been, should the council be spending your money this way? Remember, this all began with election mandates not to increase debt. It then moved to broken promises and the increased debt that we now face. Now it is moving to what can we spend the money on? But hang on, there is no money budgeted or available for this grand CBD plan in the 10-year financial plan. So we arrived back at the start of the debacle. which is taxing the ratepayers of Hamilton to build a fund for some councillors to now decide how they think it should be spent. Remember, this council is not just spending money, it's borrowing more money, and the ratepayers in future generations will have to service that debt. History will prove again that this spending spree will most likely fall into it seemed a good idea at the time category, and will not necessarily make Hamilton a better or a more affordable city for our ratepayers to live in. Little wonder that the more steam this gravy train generates, the more I'm opposed to it. Put simply, it's because I haven't, and I won't forget, we're spending other people's money here, the ratepayers.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Mallett?
Thank you, Angela. Look, I don't... You don't need to apologise.
You're already apologising for Councillor
Mallett. Don't need
it
all.
Timing.
How the hell that? I don't trust central planning anywhere, be it Hamilton City Council or the Soviet Union. I just don't think, with all the best intentions at the heart, that we, really smart people we are, who've talked to all the smart people in town, who've taken the right seminars, who've done the right PowerPoint presentations, I just don't think we know. But what I do know is that I've seen a hell of a lot of development at Rotatuna. I've seen a lot of development all around the city, which is just fabulous, absolutely fabulous. And it's been led a little bit by our district plan, albeit, but people are making choices. People are making choices to go to other places other than the CBD. I don't think that the smart people around this table and within our executive on council are smarter than the residents of Hamilton themselves, and they've made their choices. Now, they might make some choices to come back into the CBD, and some very, very brave developers at the moment are betting some of their own money on trying to get people out into the town. And geez, I hope that works. I really hope that works. But I can't see that we are going to get an adequate return for the ratepayer, because it's their money we're spending with this plan. And I need to just... When we do these sorts of things, we really, really need to look and believe what we see. And when we see that there is no parking in town, that we're competing against free parking all around the city, at the base and Rotatuna, and I've already spoken before about the 3 huge car parks, the CBD car parks, which I hope in a very short time will be developed. But with that development, an awful lot of car parks are going to leave the city. So it's going to get worse. And we can't just put our hands across our eyes and our fingers in our ears and pretend that it's just a perceived issue that there's no car parking in town. There's a big issue with car parking in town. So there's a whole lot of reasons. That's just one little point I don't think it's going to work on. And that's the point I'm making, I guess, is we can't make this decision. It's a decision that will be made by the entrepreneurs, the shoppers, the mums and dads, the businesses, the people who want to get jobs. They'll make the decision whether the investment will pay off. And I just don't think we're going to do it right, because we're too far removed. So I'll be voting against the plan.
Thank you.
Attractive though it is.
Thank you, Councillor. I'm going to be voting for the plan. I think that the Central City Transformation Plan is a very solid plan. I think it's based on a lot of work and a lot of research. There is incredibly high public interest on this plan. On my social media alone, there's been 5,500 people engaged in just 3 posts, and they were just purely visual images of 3 of the concepts in the plan. And that's pretty unprecedented, and I've been on social media since it started. So high public interest. We heard from the Hamilton Central Business Association that they strongly support it. They represent over 1,000 members. Last week, the Property Council released their manifesto. The day before we released the CCTP, and everything in there, in particular their 6 strong recommendations to this council, are included in the Central City Transformation Plan. The issues that they identify for the city are the same issues that our research has told us has been identified. As Councillor Pascoe said, they are calling for this council to be bold, and they are saying in their manifesto that inaction is not an option. I would say to the Property Council was clear to me in their manifesto, while they expect this council to take the lead, and I believe this plan does take the lead, that their action list is missing on what they're going to do to help rejuvenate the CBD. So I'm interested to see what their manifesto and their members come up with. But what is abundantly clear from their support, and also from the Regional Tourism Office, who strongly support this plan as well, is that rejuvenation is vital. And in my time on council, I've only been involved in one of the plans from the past, and that was City Heart, and that was predominantly around hard surfaces and infrastructure. It wasn't really around addressing the issues with, I believe, pinpoint accuracy that this plan has done. I think it's solid. I think that it addresses problems and offers practical solutions. I think it's innovative, and I think it's focused. And I strongly support it, and urge elected members to support it as well. Thank you. Are there any further speakers who haven't spoken? Deputy Mayor?
Thanks, Chair. Look, I just would like to remind Councillor Mallett to look at the evidence. $46 million invested by Kiwi Property in redeveloping Centre Place Mall. Now, they are smart retailers. They've seized the opportunity as the trend is slowly on the turn. $46 million. In 2001, 1,000 people lived in the CBD, and now it's 3,000. And the focus is on bringing people into the inner city. And we haven't had the market that Auckland has had in the apartment dwelling sector. Nearly 20,000 people work in the city, and we do hear stories about people moving back into the city, like the Waikato Times. Another couple of hundred people are coming back into the city. We're waiting with bated breath on the IRD. New Zealand's newest airline is in fact in the centre of the city, and I'd like to thank Councillor Wilson for his confidence in the CBD.
My pleasure.
Just don't try and land your plane down the main street. There's a $650 million retail spend and $125 million around the entertainment sector. And I have to say that when I get involved with people talking about the CBD, I say, well, yes, there are some issues in the CBD, and like Councillor Mallett, I recognise the parking is one of them, and I still maintain that that is an issue that we need to resolve. But the CBD is a huge success after dark. The hospitality sector is vibrant, alive and well, and lots of exciting bars and places to go. Now, this is for the younger people of our city. You're not going to find me out there at 2 o'clock in the morning going from bar to bar. Why not, you ask? And so it's a bit like I explained to some Australians at the psychiatric conference I opened yesterday. I said Hamilton is a bit like King's Cross. During the day it's just any other Australian suburb. But at night, thousands upon thousands of tourists go up there to see the thousands upon thousands of unusual people hanging around the cross at night. Now, we don't quite have the cross scenario here, but we can have 5,000 or 6,000 or 7,000 people down in the hospitality sector every Friday and Saturday nights. And those business owners are doing well. I look at the the Phoenix Group. I look at John Lawrenson with the bars that he's created. He deserves every bit of success. And this is contributing to a vibrancy that I think that we are sensing a real turnaround in the city. And business is coming back. So I'm going to support the motion. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor. Are there any further speakers before I go to the Mayor for right of reply? No? Your Worship?
It's difficult to have a right of reply when we've got the Deputy Mayor out at 2 in the morning, psychiatric conference in King's Cross. So I don't think there's anything more that I can add. That colourful explanation of how our central city may look, I guess, in the future. Thank you very much.
He was your choice.
Thank you. Right, I'm going to put that motion to the vote. All those in favour, please raise your hands.
Councillor Wilson, Tooman, Green, Her Worship the Mayor, Councillors Pascoe, Forsyth, Young, Chesterman and Madam Chair.
Thank you. And those against?
Councillors King and Mallet. Carried 9-2.
Great, thank you very much. Thank you. Right, so we're moving on to page 46. We have some recommendations that have come through from the Community Forum Subcommittee, and the Chair, Councillor Gallagher, is away. So he has passed the baton to his Deputy Chair, Councillor Philip Young. So, Councillor, you can take the report as read, and we have attached the quite a lengthy report from the subcommittee. Is there anything you needed to highlight? There are 2 recommendations there from your subcommittee.
Just the 2 recommendations. One is the Sustainability Advisory Panel report. That's the one to be referred to the CE, and also look at the report, any similar issues within the organizations to fit in the report, and also to look at the whether we should have a standalone sustainability strategy for Hamilton, or this will be passed on to the CE to look at it. And also another recommendation is about the energy efficiency initiatives, and to look at the voluntary targeted rate, that scheme to be considered in the annual plan 2016 to 2017. These are the 2 recommendations.
Great, thank you. Councillor Miller?
Thanks, Angela. Sorry, I'm going to say this wrong. Is Asana Agil here?
Asana?
No, she's not, but I can answer any questions.
I just found this the most difficult report to read I've ever had at council. There was recommendations all through it, and I couldn't find out what. See, I see on page 48 some recommendations. Are they the recommendations we discussed?
The recommendations were then superseded, Councillor Mallet, by the recommendation in paragraph 9A and B. So those recommendations weren't the ones that were finally adopted by the committee.
So recommendations, paragraph 8 are void, are they? That they just...
That's good. So the recommendations on page 48...
Is that just using up space, that bit there?
Well, that was what was put by staff to the committee. But at the committee, the recommendations on page 46, recommendations 9A and 9B were unanimously approved by the subcommittee.
I'm sorry, I got completely bamboozled. I mean, on page 50, it talked about a Community Forum Subcommittee was the most appropriate forum for the report to be heard, scheduled for the next environmentally themed meeting. And I was trying to follow the timeline to determine what it was that we were to discuss today. And I read the reports and disagree with heaps of it, but I just don't know what on earth it is you're asking us to look at, to do. And I'm not comfortable even receiving the report, let alone making a decision based on it. Other members might be better than, smarter than me, or been closer to the
if I can
involved.
assist, Councillor, I'm with you. I found this out of the usual practice is to provide the links of the previous reports. And when I got it, I was trying to understand what are we doing here, but I do know what we're doing because I was at the community forum. Councillor Young will also confirm this is a recommendation from that subcommittee.
That's correct.
But I have to say, I had a query about why the presentation was different to previous reports where there's normally a link. But, I mean, that might have just been I don't know why that happened, but I think that's added to the confusion, because I then started to think, are we discussing it again?
Because this is their actual agenda. This isn't even minutes, it's their
Yes,
full
so
agenda.
to be
which
clear,
was never-
So for an example, you go to page 67, then there's recommendations of development of sustainable Hamilton, adopt the full principles of sustainability. And sustainability, of course, is never properly defined. There's stuff in here, I mean, this is a bloody grenade, and I'm concerned that if we approve this, you pull the pin out, and the whole place blows apart.
So I think to be clear, Your Worship's raised a good point.
My point wasn't bad, it's pretty much the same as yours. And I said it first.
You have both
Never
raised
get the
good points.
credit.
The matters on page 46 and 47 are the summary recommendations from the subcommittee.
I'll give you an apple later on, eh?
So the subcommittee considered an independent report from the sustainability panel, and the subcommittee made a recommendation to this committee that the chief executive go away and consider that independent report more thoroughly, consider it in line with our current sustainability initiatives, and also consider it in line with our current sustainability strategy, and come back to this committee in February with some information as to, one, what are we doing and is it appropriate, and is there any gaps in terms of what the sustainability panel have identified, and secondly, do we or should we have a strategy in the future? Do we require it, or is it already contained in other elements of our business? So that's really what the recommendation is.
Can I just ask democracy? And look, I'm a bit confused as well. Can not the Community Forum subcommittee, can they not ask the chief executive to do this with themselves? And can they not do that under their terms of reference? It was my understanding that they could.
No. I believe they can only make recommendations to
They can only make recommendations to this committee.
That's my understanding as well, Madam Chair.
Okay, thank you. And what?
Can I just clarify in terms of Brendan brought this report together, and at a previous strategy and policy committee, Democracy got feedback that bringing a subcommittee report through in a minimalist way without sufficient information for the full committee to be informed was not helpful. So today Brendan tried to be helpful in terms of not just bringing a link, not just bringing a very brief report, but bringing the information to all the committee. So just in terms of background and support of Brendan.
Thank you, Democracy Minister.
And,
You're
I mean,
right.
Jude, I think that's right, but I guess my feedback would be put that into the report. You know, this is the background, this is how it came about, because it is confusing. Yeah, but I take your point.
Maybe it's a technical officers should be reporting this type of information through to a standing committee rather than coming through an administrative officer.
Yeah, that's a good point. Good point.
So what the report is asking us to do is the strategy needs a review, and that's the CE's going to do that or delegate
Angela.
that.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, and
Delegate.
there's an idea around the VTR to be considered in the annual plan. So that's basically the two.
That's correct, yes.
Two issues. Okay. Councillor Mallett?
Well, just as an example, see, like if you go to page 49, this is how Rubik's Cube this thing was. Point 22, and maybe I just can't follow, but the panel's report includes 11 key messages. Now I'm thinking, that'll be great. There's some points I can agree with or disagree with. See page 3 of attachment 3. So we're on item 10. I don't think there is an attachment 3, is there?
No,
I think, Councillor Bella, the difficulty is that and it's probably not easy. You're reading a report.
Rather, you're dead right.
It's a report within a report, so it's not helpful in terms of the.
Well, I couldn't reference anything, and then it's the sort of stuff I'm predetermined not to like.
If I can be helpful, the Sustainability Panel has obviously prepared a very comprehensive and detailed analysis on sustainability matters, and it does require a relatively detailed assessment against a variety of initiatives in Council. Some of the initiatives in Council were outlined in page 50 and 51, so that just gave a bit of a snapshot as to some of the things that have been happening across our business. What the subcommittee have asked staff through the Chief Executive to go away and do is to look at that in more detail and line those things up against what the Sustainability Panel, the independent experts have identified, to try and, I guess, make it easy for Council to ultimately say, are we doing enough in this space? Should we be doing more? Should we be doing less? Because
Well, I just wouldn't be confident making any decision on this. I mean,
and I don't think
people.
you're not required to today, apart from allowing the chief executive to go away and do more work. The decision for council really is in February when the chief executive comes back with his assessment of the stock take and
Well,
how
effectively, a stock take, Councillor Mallett.
Yep. Okay. But yeah, okay. This, you, as councillors, we have an awful lot of paper to read, and that's that's part of the job. You just accept it. But when it's presented in this, and I don't mean to be rude to anyone, it's difficult to get through. It was just, I was really struggling to figure out what was what, and there were reports referred to, and then there's something about a sustainability report, such and such, and I'm looking through, and there was something that looked like it was a sustainability report, wasn't exactly the right word that was there. Isn't that the same thing that I'm talking about? Did you get that too? See, I've got you to hit you first.
That's a report on top of a report.
Oh, Martin, yeah.
I'm just wondering, Madam Chair, whether we're looking at the wrong recommendation here.
It's entirely possible, Councillor Tooman.
I don't know what we were looking at.
When I read this, I just saw the recommendation, which is on page 46. And
Well,
when
it
it got
is.
thrown over to the CE, I thought, well, he can sort it all out for me, and I could have left it at that.
That was the recommendation,
right.
and the
I'm happy to return it if you want it back.
Councillor Gallagher.
So I'd like to, well, which one did you move?
Are you moving the
May I?
recommendation?
Just one more question.
Councillor
Just
Frisco.
one question. On page 46, which I did read, under 9A, are we asking that the chief executive is to report back? And I just in the last three lines, such a summary of all initiatives within the organisation that fit within the sustainability framework contained in the sustainability report. Now, is it intended in this motion that the CE is going to come back and tell us what we need to adopt?
I mean, it's intended to be a stock take of all the initiatives that council currently is undertaking in the sustainability space, and the chief executive has been asked to work with the panel themselves. So the panel are part of that process, and it would identify some gaps, and there would be some recommendations there.
So is this the action list on page 60, 61 and 62, where we've got city living and business? I've only been part of it. Where you've got actions,
Strategy.
what the proposed project time length is. Then there's a whole series of them.
Can I just make this really, just try and make it really simple? There was a report that went to the committee that made a number of recommendations in respect of sustainability. At the committee, it was agreed that before we do anything from that report, a stock take would be undertaken about what we currently do. So the recommendation today is a recommendation for me to do a stock take to effectively establish a baseline. At that point, we'll come back to that committee, then ultimately S&P, with that baseline and any potential future recommendations. So all you're doing today is really saying, hey, Richard, go and find out what we're currently doing, and then we can be better informed when we come back to make a recommendation on the overall policy at a later stage. So that's all I'm after, is that writing instruction.
Was that clear?
Yep, that's it.
Is that clear, everyone?
I'll move.
I'll second it.
Sorry, who moved? Councillor Young is moving that,
I second it.
and Councillor Tooman is seconding that. All right.
What's hard to read?
Councillor Young, did you want to speak to
Just
the
a brief
motion?
one.
Oh,
Pretty much.
sorry, we haven't finished. Sorry, Councillor King.
So what are the legal parameters around this? Is this something that we have to do?
No, it's a council strategy, so it's entirely up to council.
No, it's not. And one of the reasons there's been a request placed on me is to do a stock take to see whether or not we're already doing enough and don't have to do any more. We may well have already achieved a certain degree or a level of sustainability within our business as usual practices. So we really want to go and test what we're currently doing and come back, and council may well be satisfied with what we're doing and not want to progress any further. So there's no framework or legal requirement. It's just good practice.
So a lot of these things don't make money. They lose money for us, obviously. That's
Huge amount of stuff.
certainly not generating money. It's certainly a lost centre for the council, isn't it?
quite often the case when you look at sustainability practices that the cost may well outweigh the benefit. But there are benefits than money as well.
Yep.
Councillor Mallett?
I'm of mind not to. Okay, so just to be clear what we've done, someone's moved the recommendations. Is that on page 46? 47. And they are 9A and 9B, is that right?
Yes.
And 10.
And 10.
10.
And 10, okay.
Yeah.
And so if we... Okay, thank you. So now I know what we're doing.
All right. Sorry, Councillor Young, did you want
Yep,
to...
just briefly. Actually, Council has a Sustainable Hamilton strategy that's been adopted in April 2013. So we have that. And we'll look at all the sustainability for Hamilton City. And in terms of what you mentioned about we're losing money on all this, but actually it's really not. Just one little example, Council is working on the LED street lighting for all new subdivision. That's eventually we save money for Council for the energy efficiency. Like we have the eco design advisor in the building unit to give advice to ratepayers about when they're building the house, how to save money, cost saving or efficiency, all those. These are all the stuff already been going on. But based on the panel report, now we are referring to the CE to look at to have a stock take at what we have been doing already and what are the gaps and what we want to do more or encourage people to do more, not necessarily spending thousands of dollars on Council, but on the other hand, we can move Hamilton forward. And also, on the other hand, the VTR scheme, that is to look at the energy saving as well, that will be considered in the annual plan in 2016 and 17. That is what the recommendation is about, these two items to pass on to the CE to make a report back to the S&P in February next year. Right, thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. Any further speakers? Your worship?
The reality is, councillors, that we need to have a good review of exactly what we do in the organisation, both from a policy perspective and from an operational perspective in this domain. In the last council, that council signed off the sustainability strategy.
Yeah.
The question now arises is whether we need that strategy any longer. Is it, and if we do, is it fit for purpose or not? And those questions cannot be answered until we actually know what is actually happening. Councillor Young is quite correct that there have been a number of things become quite substantial through sort of environmental initiatives that the council has put in place. For example, $500,000 a year saving on energy costs through changing a practice in the council annually, changing a practice in the council that would fall into the domain, if you like, of environmental sustainability. The question that we had in the community forum, and Councillor Young will be able to speak to this as well, is, well, it's all very well having this strategy, it's all very well having this report from the advisory panel, but there's so much missing because there's the organisational component and there's an update on what we're actually doing required. So, I mean, the tendency for me is to jump to the end result, and because I kind of have got a good grasp of what we're already doing and saying, well, actually, I don't think we need one. But I think it's quite important that we work through and get the Chief Executive to bring back the big spreadsheet. This is all the things we've done, and these are the savings that have been achieved. The other comment I'd like to make about this, councillors, and why you should support this motion, because it's a piece of work that needs to be done before we can make the final decision, is that the report from the sustainability panel people is, if you like, on the continuum at the top end. Now, we need to assess, is that where we want to be, or do we want to be some way back from that? And that cannot be answered until we actually get the information from the Chief Executive in a proper way. And so I do think, councillors, while I can understand that, people are saying, do we need this or not? I'm in your camp. I want that question answered. But I think, councillors, we need to get the proper work done first. And the Chief Executive has said he can go off and do that and bring that back in February. So this is, if you like, a practical process approach, and let's have the debate in February. At the moment, we just got to get the information. Thank you.
Worship. Councillor Mallett.
I'd be appalled if Richard wasn't doing this stuff already. I I mean, this is just managing to a budget. If that's what we're being sold, I think we're being sold that this is a better way of running the place. I've got some big doubts if all of the environment. I mean, these are the people who bought us peak oil and all sorts of carry on. That these guys have been wrong so many times. I don't know why they don't get laughed off stage. But anyway, we have a tolerance for these people we don't have for other people. But anyway, every 6 weeks we have a finance committee meeting where we find out how we're going against our budget. We're doing it. We're managing things all the time, sustainably. Well, I'll argue, Andrew and I and a few of us might argue that we're not doing it sustainably, but that's the goal of those things, is to try and keep our costs down, to do things as efficiently, to use our resources as appropriately as we can, to get more bang for our buck, because we know we're spending someone else's buck, not our own buck. So this is just what we do every day. This is the way I would be astonished if our general managers aren't doing this all the time. Is there a better way of doing this? By replacing those bulbs, do I save a bit of power? Do I save my energy bill? And do they last 10 years longer? So, okay, I'll do that. Nothing to do with because it's green, or quote unquote, that undefinable sustainable, because it's efficient business. It's exactly what we should do. That is what we do, I hope, every day. We're going to do these things better. We can do these things cheaper. We can do these things with more innovation. We can create better service for our customers, for our ratepayers. We don't need this. And I tell you what, this thing, I use the analogy of a hand grenade. You pull the pin on this thing and she blows up everywhere. That you'll have these people crawling all over you, and you will not be able to tolerate them. Well, good on you if you can. So I'm not for it.
If I can just comment through the chair, obviously the strategy that we have does talk more than sort of financial sustainability. It's a far wider. When the strategy refers to sustainability, it's about environment, it's about looking to the long term. So it's not just a financial sort of efficiency, effectiveness. So that is obviously a strategy that council has and is giving effect to. And I guess what the independent report is talking about, and even the staff report that went to the subcommittee, there are a range of initiatives which don't always speak to necessarily the lowest cost, but they speak to balancing a number of those other factors. So there's things such as how we environmentally dispose of our sewage waste and bits and pieces. So it's a slightly wider focus, Councillor.
Just a question on that, sorry, but those things are all governed by our consents and things like that. The regional council manage all that stuff. We don't need this other layer slithered all over us.
I think, just to make it clear, I think the request from this committee is actually to validate your point, actually validate that point directly rather than passively assume it. The challenge was put to me by the committee was, Richard, you are already doing this as an organisation. Please provide that evidence back to the committee so they can actually see it. So all I'm doing is collecting what we're already doing, as you said, and bringing that back to the committee.
But don't you do that with the finance committee meetings and
Not explicitly in terms of the context of sustainability.
Any further speakers?
Just a point of clarification. So on B, Richard, on
Resolution B.
9B.
You're talking page 47, Councillor? Yes?
Yeah.
47, yeah.
Is that sort of saying, instead of disposing of it, we enhance it?
I can't tell you about what the outcome of the review will be. It may well be status quo. It may well be that we currently have enough embedded into our business as usual practices, or it may be a separate strategy. So that will come from that recommendation, from that work.
So it could be to wrap it up, could be to keep it going, or it could be to set up a separate.
Yep. Okay.
Sorry, just to be doubly clear on that, it would appear that the only options that recommendation gives us, if you read it literally, is to either consult with and as to whether the council should have a stand. So I don't know where the sustainability panel fits at the moment within the organisation, but it seems to be either we have one that's within the organisation or have a standalone one. What about if you want to blow the thing up and say no, we don't want to have it at all? So is that an option in B? Because it's not. Doesn't seem to be clear.
I read B as that providing that option as well.
Yes, it's absolutely.
So one of the options is okay, so long as that's on the table, everyone knows that's one of the options.
No, that was
that
the explicit intent of the resolution.
I'm entering into this with an open mind, Councillor.
And Councillor Milt, we did actually discuss that at the Community Forum Subcommittee.
Oh, did you?
Is there a need for the strategy anymore? So that's, yeah.
I think
It just
some of the
doesn't
panel,
seem that
some
clearly
of
articulated in B.
panel members are also.
Or this can be an umbrella strategy under some others.
Yeah.
Or this strategy may not be Hamilton standalone.
Yeah.
Because
But some of the, Councillor Young, I believe some of the actual panel members are asking that question as well, whether
That's why
they
we
are
put it in
required.
there,
Okay. All right. Are there any further speakers? Councillor Young, did you want to write a reply?
No.
No. Okay. I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Are there any against? Councillor Great. Thank you. Right, item 11, page 95. This is the 6 monthly reports from the chairs of the subcommittees, and we will start with our Business and Investment Subcommittee on page 96. Your Worship, the Mayor. Your Worship.
Yes, so I'll take the report as read. I think the predominant feature of the subcommittee has been the Central City Transformation Plan, which we discussed earlier today. I think the subcommittee is next part of its work program is reviewing some policies which are on this committee's allocation list, and those will be coming back before Christmas, so we've got a bit of work to do on those, but otherwise the report is, I think.
Okay,
I'm happy to move it.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. I'm happy to second. Is there any debate?
Just a question, sorry. And this might not be what on page 97. I just noticed there's a bullet point, second bullet point.
No, we're just on the B&I one, Councillor. Just on the B&I. Well, I'll do them separately.
Oh, sorry. I thought we're doing them all together.
So if there are any questions for B&I, otherwise, no, that's been moved and seconded. Is there any debate? I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? Are there any against? No, that's carried. So now we're on page 97, Civil Defence and Emergency Management, and Councillor Tooman is the Chair.
I'll take it as read, and there's a question though from Councillor Meld, I think. Which
Councillor Meld.
The second point on number 3 about the bomb threat in Centre Place.
Sure.
Just so you know that I was very involved in that. I was the one person left in the building, being told by the police to stay in there until we blow the bomb up.
So you didn't get the cup of coffee?
No, I did not.
Okay.
Anyway,
It could be
we'll leave that aside. I was the one person left in that bloody building.
Don't take that personally, Councillor Meld.
The cop said, no, stay there, stay there.
No, that was the world in general.
We think she's going up.
You were the decoy.
I truly...
They were just operating under instruction.
Anyway, we did have some other bomb threats. Are they considered in this? I know it's before the courts.
Ones?
Yeah,
One's on par.
No.
okay. So there's nothing came out of that we need to react to, or and there might be nothing. I mean, I guess it's just a random thing. It's hard to when you employ someone. Are you going to threaten to blow things up? I don't know.
I think the reason that this particular bomb threat was listed in this report from the Chair was because it led to a mass evacuation of a number of people on a wet...
minus one.
Yeah.
Mass minus one. And it was a particularly wet and inclement day, if I recall, so it was actually a good chance to test our housing procedures, a bit of a welfare centre, so it was really a stand-up welfare centre in that context.
Councillor Miller, I think there should be an inquiry about that.
I want a sustainability inquiry on me.
Right, question, Councillor King? Yeah.
A little bit off subject, Councillor Tooman, but if there was a major something happened in Hamilton as councillors, what are we expected to do?
Well, really, you've got to look after yourself first. That's number one. And I think everybody should basically have 3 plans.
As councillors?
As a councillor, you stay with your community.
Okay.
Otherwise, we've got the controller here who will look after the control of things, and Worship will declare the emergency if required. But basically, look after your local community.
Thank you.
Can I, Councillor Tooman, can I put a plug in then? I mean, it's a question that I asked early on in my tenure as well, and we have tried several times, I know diaries are tight, Councillor Tooman, to organise a bit of a kind of a role play in the Civil Defence Office and exactly how it all works. If we maybe in the new year, it's really,
it's on
really...
the list, Councillor.
Is it? Oh, good.
It's on the list to happen before Christmas, isn't it?
Yeah.
A trial.
If people can come, because I took Whitiora School
Very
with
good.
Councillor Tooman through it. It's absolutely fascinating and really gives you a really clear insight into just how incredibly organised things are. And as elected members, the public would be looking at us, and we need
You
to
didn't
know
even jump out of the window,
what to
Councillor.
do.
Bell.
Yeah.
When it hits, I'll be on the 14th floor.
So just on that, I think that, Councillor Tooman, that's programmed to be November or so, isn't it, that we're having a sort of a session?
It's really good.
November,
We
is
were
it?
looking at
October, November?
diary type
Yes,
thing,
okay.
but I think democracy's taken care
Okay.
of that.
And we promise, Councillor Mallett, we won't leave you behind.
Well, I know exactly what to do if there's an earthquake and I happen to be on Rugby Park, because I've done a photo.
All right, there have been no further questions. Councillor Tooman, would you like to move your report be received?
I would.
And I'm happy to second that. Any debate? No? All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Thank you. Page 99, the Chairperson's report from the Community Forum Subcommittee, and with Councillor Gallagher, Chair of that, away, Councillor Young.
Just on
as
behalf of
Deputy
the Chair.
Yes.
So I take the report as read.
Yep.
Yeah, I think one of the lines that the Chair would like me to say is, given the significant matters impacting the community, he really requesting, encouraging other fellow councillors to attend the community's subcommittee meeting. This is just one of the encouragement or recommendation. Yep.
Right, thank
Any
you.
other-
To what? To every meeting or just to one? To which meeting?
No. I mean, we encourage all other councillors who's not a member of this subcommittee to attend the community subcommittee subcommittee meeting. Yeah, just to encourage you to come along.
Thank you. Councillor Young, are you going to move that?
Yep.
And seconded by Councillor Pascoe. Is there any debate? Councillor Young, did you want to speak to the report?
No,
Okay, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Is there any against? That's carried. And last Chair's report is on page 101. This is the Hearings Subcommittee Chairperson's report, and that is chaired by Councillor Forsyth. Councillor Forsyth, would you want to speak to your report?
No,
No?
I'd just like to move it.
Okay. And that is seconded by Councillor Young. Is there
Can
any
I just
questions,
ask Margaret
Councillor
a question? Margaret, there's a couple of things here. We've got April 2nd and April 28th, menacing dog classification.
Mm-hmm.
What does that entail, and what do we do if a dog's...
It's more like the owner.
Identifying
I would
breed.
suggest that you come along to one of the meetings if you really want to know the detail. But basically, a dog does something.
So it's an
menacing.
individual
It might
dog or-
rush, if you let me finish, it
Yeah.
might rush somebody or it might
Yeah.
bite somebody. So then council staff then issue a notice to say that your dog has done A, B or C, and there is a dog act which stipulates what will happen to the dog. The owner gets told that. If the owner disagrees or disputes the facts, then it has the opportunity to come to a hearing panel such as ourselves.
Okay.
We hear the evidence, the staff present a report, the dog owner presents his or her side of the story, and then the panel deliberates and we make a decision.
Okay, thank you. The word classification threw me, I guess. I was thinking maybe it was to do with specific identifying breeds that are typically menacing, and hence we wouldn't encourage them in the city. It doesn't do anything like that.
No.
Okay. And so that's a almost quasi-judicial process that the dog's on trial, is it, sort of thing?
And the owner.
The owner. And so what are the outcomes that are possible?
Euthanasia.
Is it?
Oh, could be.
Aye.
Not the owner, though. We don't do that to the owner.
It's all
Not yet, although
it's all legislated under the Dog Control Act.
Yeah, just with the
Okay,
dog.
all right. So, and the end point, you could whack a dog out. Yeah.
Yes.
whack the dog out. Mate, you should have a career in...
Okay, so that
Whack
report,
the
thank you,
dog.
Councillor Forsyth, has been moved by Councillor Forsyth and seconded by Councillor
That's your
Young.
dog, mate.
Is there any debate?
You didn't.
I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour?
Aye.
Are there any against? That's carried. Thank you. And last item 12, Regional Roundup Report, which is a standard report to the committee and informs elected members on what's going on regionally with passenger transport and civil defence. And welcome to Robin and Chris. Anything that you wanted to highlight to the committee?
Yeah, I'd like to take the report as read, but one significant, I guess, bit of progress that we've been waiting for a long time, and it arrived too late to put into the report, but we've finally received the National Speed Management Guide. So that arrived about a week ago. So we're just in the process of understanding that and probably distributing that to council, and it may be a good briefing to have a look at the guide and what that says. So the guide it comes in about 4 parts. There's an overview, there's questions and answers. The first part of the guide is probably the one of most interest to council, which is the speed management framework. And sitting in behind it is also volume 2, which is the toolbox, which is national sort of consistency and guidance on how to implement speed management treatments. So it's quite a comprehensive guide. So look, make no mistake, I think this is the development of national policy to continue the theme of driving consistency in setting speed limits. And the difference this time, it's targeted to risk on very much an evidence-based process. So NZTA, as I will understand it, and Robin will kick me if I get this wrong, I'm sure, but NZTA are going to use national data sets, and the national data sets they will use will be on travel speeds and safety risk. So there's a way to assess through crash data what the risk of a road is. They'll apply it to the one network road classification. So the councillors may recall we've talked to you quite a bit about that over time, and it's pretty similar to the arterial collector local road, but a national consistent basis of how you look at roads. So they're going to use a national data set to create a draft speed management plan for every single local authority in New Zealand eventually. So they will develop one for us which is just all about evidence and data and what our speed should be. That then gives us the opportunity to sense test what it says and have some interaction on that. So the key change is it's really much a top-down where you start with a really strategic view on speed management. Then through this guide you apply a series of techniques to drill down to identify where we've got a misalignment between the actual travel speeds and what the guide is telling us is a safe and appropriate speeds. So you will find quite a key graph in this document here which does set out what the national group believes are safe and appropriate speeds. Looking at the key message for us is they are confirming a range of speeds for our local roads between 30 and 50 with quite a strong flavour that 40k is a safe road speed for a lot of our streets in Hamilton.
Is or isn't?
Is. Look, so eventually then this will all lead to a change to the legislative basis of changing speed rules in about a year's time. I guess the other important bit of information is that the guides have come out as draft at the moment because they've made a decision that they want to test the guide, and Waikato has been chosen as the test or a demonstration project. So through the RTC and Leo as chair of that group, the Waikato is going to be used as a demonstration project. So before they roll it out nationally, I assume that they'll do all of the data testing for the TLAs in the Waikato, put that data together, and then we'll pioneer, I guess, the approach. So there'll be plenty of opportunities to engage in that as we move forward.
So sorry, Chris, can I just clarify? The Waikato region is a trial area. They're going to collect the data and then test that against the guide. Is that what the trial means? Is that what you're meaning?
So the demonstration project is actually a demonstration of the framework. So that's working. So that's getting the data that Chris.
Are you
sorry,
on?
not on?
Is that on?
Yep.
Just lower it.
Sorry. So it's a demonstration of the guide. So that will work its way all the way through from all of that data collation, doing the sense test, and then they're wanting to actually work through to actually having some speed limits changed.
I'm still, still don't understand, Robin. What do you mean by demonstration guide?
So demonstrate this guide. So it's actually putting the theory into practice and seeing how that goes.
On our roads.
They're going to change speed limits on roads in the Waikato and test it.
No, they probably won't change them, but they'll put the evidence in front of us and the case for change, I guess, and we'll just have to work through that with them. So this is every local authority in the Waikato region, not just Hamilton City Council.
Okay.
So the idea is, and it's talked about in this document, is that it's not a wholesale change, that this is a change of speed limits over the next 10 or 15 years. So part of the work is actually prioritising it to risk as well. So it's looking at those speed limits and locations where we have high death and serious injuries occurring and targeting to those locations. And in some cases, the decision has to be made that the road is obviously not performing as well as it should do. An interim solution might be lowering the speed limit with a long-term plan to upgrade that road so that you can lift that speed limit back up again, because the function of that road is important, that it operates at that higher speed. But they're the sorts of decisions that would be worked through within the framework.
And I guess through all of this, they're putting on the table the raising speed limits on the right roads as well. So through this is a 110k proposal for expressway type roads. So it's looking at up and down.
Thank you.
So look, there's a lot of information there. Look, we've just received it ourselves. So my intent was to circulate a link to councillors and probably set a briefing sometime shortly, just so we can talk about that. And
this could have.
So, Chair, I think because
yeah.
I mean we've probably got lots of questions, particularly given that we're the demonstration region. So I'm wondering. Now's probably not the time to do that. We need to read it ourselves, don't we, and understand it. Yeah. But I agree. I think we need to set a briefing time for this, so that we can read the... So you should circulate material, we can all have a read, then let's have a briefing and really understand what it means. But I take it from what you're saying that because we're a demonstration area, I think we need to understand what does that mean then. Because we're then voluntarily going into a process that to I guess, live the document in practice, even though we might have some issues with what it says. Do you see what I'm saying? So we need to understand how that all works. So rather than perhaps all jumping in and asking heaps of questions about it today, I think we need to have the information circulated. But maybe we need to find time sooner rather than later, do you think, for that?
Look, my sense is sooner rather than later. The time frame is quite rapid from now. And look, it's a really difficult read, so I do think circulating it, we need...
we need an interpretation.
I think we do need an interpretation. Rob's the best one to interpret it for me. Like, I've sat down for a couple of hours and tried to read it and understand it, but it is I think, quite an interesting and difficult read.
Great.
But look, I think the premise is the first thing that's going to happen is they're just going to present us with data, which is just going to be evidence to say, well, what our crash risk is on all of the roads in the whole region. That's a heck of a task, I would imagine. They'll just say what the evidence is in terms of the crash risk and relate it to what they think are safe speeds and try and find the mismatch. So I think we'd focus, I guess, on the mismatch, and just what it's saying is we've got the wrong speeds on, and have a discussion around that. And does it make sense to us?
Okay, thank you. Councillor Mallet? Thanks, Chris.
Who's going to pay for all that?
So at the moment, my understanding is NZTA is paying for all the data collection, so our cost will be engagement in the process, but one of those ones where we have no option. We've got to engage in the process because this is national policy coming down, leading to speed rule change, but NZTA are picking up the front of it, and it's actually quite good, I think, to be a demonstration project because they'll put a lot of time and energy into accurate information, I would thought.
As long as that includes money as well, that they put in.
It probably won't be money to make changes and make roads appropriate, but as Robin says, I think it'll give you a 10-year plan and a guide to maybe how you should change if we find any that we should change over time. So, but that'll come back to us for the physical works in terms of the changes. Now, whether that's going to be mandatory or not, I think we just need to work through that.
And Chris, we've had the speed management policy on hold since June last year.
Waiting for this.
Waiting for this.
So the councillors
We need
recall
to
it was,
understand.
we probably got out the gates quite quickly,
Yeah.
and it was, let's put a pause on that and let the nation catch up to where we're at to see whether we're anchored right and whether we're going in the right direction. So my view is it's probably showing that we've gone in the right direction in some of the changes that we've made, arguably, but let's see what the evidence says.
All right.
Could I
so we
say
need
to you, I think that then we need to understand where that policy in the bylaw fits in,
Yeah.
in this too, when,
Yes.
when you come back to the briefing, because we have
Yeah.
those things on hold.
So if we can get that into a briefing as soon as possible. Is there anything else on the report, Chris?
Just happy to answer any questions.
Highlight? Okay, any other questions? Councillor Pascoe.
Yes, I've got a couple of questions on the report. Paragraph 19 on page 105, where you've got the table there. The priority 26, the Gallagher Drive intersection improvements. I think Chris and I were involved in helping to negotiate that. I see it's down as probable, but is it a committed? Is it more committed than probable?
It will happen. Yeah,
it is.
I think it's how it got classed because there were certain hurdles that hadn't been jumped at the time it was published.
At the time this was published.
Yeah,
Okay.
but they are actively working on it, and
Because there's been an agreement signed, hasn't
Yeah.
there, between NZTA and the parties, including
Yes.
the council? Yeah.
so I would expect that will happen, and hopefully we can report soon on the timetable of that.
Okay, that'd be good. And the other question, and I think this has probably been asked before, but in paragraph 15, there's a sort of a $3 billion spend over the next 3 years as far as NZTA is concerned. Do they calculate that on the basis of what petrol tax revenue and road user charges that they collect within this area? Is that how they sort of allocate the spend around the regions? Or is it done a little more, is it done politically, to be a bit more politically savvy than what revenue they collect?
So this is the great word, hypothecation.
We don't, or don't we know, or don't we know?
It's nationally hypothecated, but that, what we collect through fuel tax and etc. is spent on roading, but not necessarily on a population basis per region or how much you collect in a region. It's done on a national priority basis according to investment criteria. So government does have other things that they do to try and redress that, like they have other Crown appropriations for regional development, where if a region is not getting their share, I guess, of the national funds, because to be fair, a lot is going to Waikato and Auckland, and so there are projects in regions, but they've created another fund outside the National Land Transport Fund to put some transport investment there. So I think the answer is it's not based on
solely
where
on the
money's
revenue
collected,
collection
by region.
Okay.
It's based nationally and is just prioritised on where for this government, economic development and the greatest bang for your buck in terms of economic development and safety.
Yep. Okay. Thank you.
Right, thank you. And no further questions?
I'm happy to move the report.
Thank you, Your Worship.
I'll second.
And seconded by Councillor Forsyth. Is there any debate? No? All those in favour?
Aye.
Any against? That's carried. Thank you. Thank you. All right, last item. Item 13, page 109. This is the action list. Pending external submissions and also our policy and bylaw review program. If I can just start on page 111, the second item, event strategy development and the recommended strategy to optimise the municipal endowment fund, etc. Do we have a date? We've just got ongoing under the status. Do we have dates for those at all?
I can tell you that they're on at the last B&I subcommittee meeting. We received a report on those.
Yeah.
And what that said is that was coming back to the next B&I subcommittee meeting. So I don't know why that's not been picked up in this updated action list.
It needs to be picked up.
Because there was that report to B&I that listed all the dates.
Okay.
I think it may be, Your Worship, the timing of the
Timing.
timing of the two
Timing,
meetings.
Great. Thank you. I just do have a question. and I don't, possibly to democracy, and I know I think I've raised this in the past, and it probably is something you won't be able to answer today.
Sounding like me.
But I know, but I am just, there is a part of me that is a little concerned that when the committee makes a makes a resolution, and that resolution is recorded in minutes, I guess I'm speaking to specific dates, and then an action list is able to change the dates of when, for example, a report needs to come to a committee. I just have a niggling concern that won't go away on that we need to be really clear, because the committee's made a decision, but then it's just changed. It's usually just around dates, you know, for genuine reasons, but I'm not sure about the veracity of how we're doing that process.
It's your concern around the risk to the what council's resolved, what the committee's resolved.
And that it's simply changed, and as I said, it's always relating to dates, but it is a resolution of the council and the committee that A will be delivered by B, and then it's simply changed in the action list. I know it's then accepted in that action list, but I just need a little bit more rigour around.
I wonder whether that's
comfortable with that.
Best addressed at agenda setting, and potentially where the date is different from the resolution, it's specifically noted or something as a some information for this committee to be aware of that.
Keep an eye on that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's just keeps sort of niggling
I think
at
agenda
me.
setting is a place we can.
Okay, all right. So maybe.
But then that does happen sometimes,
I
doesn't
know
it?
it happens quite a lot, and for, you know,
even without
good
the
reason.
action list, staff sometimes can't deliver on a time frame for whatever reason, and then they report back on that.
Yeah, and it may just be perhaps the way that we report
I think it's just an awareness that, it's
a higher awareness is needed, perhaps, I'm not sure. Okay, are there any other questions on the action list or external submissions? There are no questions? No, so I'm going to move that that be received, seconded by the Deputy Mayor. All those in favour? Any against? That's carried. Thank you. Before we go, I'm going to start awarding chocolate fish for the statement of the day, and given our continued spirit of rivalry with our overseas cousins, the statement of today was from the Deputy Mayor, who said, I was talking to an Australian at a psychiatrist convention. So, Deputy Mayor, that was a perler, and you get a chocolate fish. Thank you. Thank you, committee. That closes the Strategy and Policy Committee meeting. I thought that was